take a minute to go over some feedback on your lesson plan project. For many of you, this was your first time creating a lesson plan. Some of you make lesson plans, but you've never used our hack format before. And so I just wanted to give some specific feedback on the things that I see you needing a little bit of improvement on. Overall, the lesson plans were really good, and I do encourage you to share your lesson plan on Facebook. What's really neat about this project is everyone did a lesson plan on comparing numbers for pre-K. And so if you share your lesson plans and take a peek at the ones that are shared, you are going to see 7 or 8 different lesson plans on comparing numbers for pre-K students, and you're going to notice many different ways to teach the same skill. And I always find this very valuable and interesting. So I do encourage you to do that. Next, I want to talk about some different areas that you can either improve upon or at least clarify some confusion. The first thing I want to look at is how do you find a specific competency that matches your standard? For this lesson, you were all given the standard of comparing numbers, and I want to just take you here in just a second. In the Pennsylvania State Standards, one of the things we do first is we search our grade level and our subject area, and I've done that already. And when you scroll down, you can see that standard CC.2.1 pre-K A3 is comparing numbers, and that was what we were working with, and that is under the category or standard area of numbers and operations. Unfortunately, they have not linked this standard with the curriculum alignment where you find your competency. So you have to work backwards when you do this. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now. You go up into menu and you select curriculum framework. Sometimes it's best to start with this and then move into the standard, and I'll show you why. Choose curriculum framework, and then we will have to go in and modify our search options. So we're going to select pre-K. And we're going to select math. Where is my subject area math? Oh, there it is. Sorry, I'm working on a pretty small screen so I can video for you, and it's glitching on me. Give me 1 second. I'm going to stretch my screen out here. There we go. Bring it back in. And now when you scroll down, you'll see the framework for pre-K math. Now, we start with a big idea, and these are the overwhelming concepts. And if you remember, we had that number operation was our overwhelming concept. So when you are in the curriculum framework, you're going to look for that main category. And we can see there are 2 for number operations. We're going to select the first one. Sometimes this is trial and error. You just have to open it up and play around with it. This gives you then your essential question, and these are the 2 things, the big idea and the essential question, that will be listed under curriculum alignment on your lesson plan. But by starting here, we can see our standard for comparing numbers is more specific. So, I'm sorry, I'm going a little too quickly for you. The concept is right here. But this competency is really important because that's more specific than your standard, and it helps you not only create your lesson plan in a developmentally appropriate way, but it helps you write your objective because you want to include the competency in your objective because that's what the students are going to do and that's what you're going to assess. So we don't even need to know the standard to find this. But what if I'm a teacher and I know I want to teach a lesson on comparing numbers for pre-K, I'm going to scroll through my competencies until I find that. And you can see under this side, we see number comparison, and then here's our competency. Identify whether the number of objects in one group is greater than, less than, or equal to a number of objects in another group, up to 10. So that competency is really what should have been the basis for your lesson. You really should have been working on numbers 0 to 10, although I did mention this on some of your lesson plans. If you're doing this lesson for the first time, you may want to scale it down to 0 to 5 and then see how they do. And at the end, when you're assessing, you'll be able to determine if they're ready to go on to 10. Because knowing that this is the competency doesn't mean you always have to start with the whole thing. You can break it down. But what's neat is this competency will help you write your objective. Each one of you, no matter what your activity was, your objective should have said compare numbers using greater than, less than, and equal to in objects 0 to 10 or whatever numbers you chose. Remember, those words should have been there. If they weren't, then you kind of missed the mark a bit on your objective. Something that they also have for number comparison is compare two numbers between 1 and 5 when looking at just numerals, not sets of objects. So you also could have chosen this to have in your objective. It's just another area of comparing numbers for pre-K students. And that's why that competency is so important. I want you to note something. Right beside our competency, we have our standard. And if you look, both of these, whether we're comparing objects or comparing numerals, have the same exact standard. That's why the standard isn't enough. It doesn't tell you enough as a teacher. One thing that's a benefit if you start with this curriculum framework is now we can link right over to our standard, and there it is. So most of the time people start with the standard, but it's actually easier to start with the framework, find your competency, and then come back to the standard. So hopefully that clears up and also emphasizes the importance of finding that competency on our state standards so you know specifically what you need to teach and you can use that language right there in your objective. All right, we're going to move back to our list. And the next area of feedback is vocabulary. For this lesson, I chose the vocabulary words greater than, less than, and equal to. And that's because they're directly related to your objective. No matter if you compare numerals or objects, students really need to understand that language. Most of you had a lesson that talked about greater than, less than, or equal to, but very few of you actually had a part of your lesson plan procedure that discussed those vocabulary words. So it's not enough to list the vocabulary in the vocabulary area of the lesson plan. You must additionally, in the procedure, tell how they're going to figure out or explicitly be taught what those words mean. That's something you must do. You must take the vocabulary to the step where you're going to either have them figure out the vocabulary words, you're going to teach them the vocabulary words, but you would definitely need to identify them and make sure they know them. Otherwise, they can't do the activity and use that language you want them to. So make sure your procedure includes explicit instruction or an inquiry-based instruction of those words. The third area I want to give you some feedback on is worksheets. A lot of you had worksheets in your lesson plan. Worksheets can be used in two different ways, and that's what I saw in your lesson plans. Traditionally, a worksheet could be a quick assessment that is in written form at the end of the lesson. For pre-K, it's not necessary because you can authentically assess during your activity and just take some notes or mark some information on a checklist. But if you feel better with that paper and pencil task, keep it to 3 to 5 problems, and you can do that at the end. Again, that's really not developmentally appropriate for most kiddos. Fine motor-wise and just attention-wise, there's better ways to see what they know. But if you really want it at the end, I'm okay with that. What I'm not okay with is a worksheet for your activity. Your lesson for anyone in this pre-K4 realm that we're learning about should not be doing worksheets as the activity. A worksheet can be an assessment, but it is not the activity. Your activity should be hands-on. It should be interactive. It should be cooperative. It should be something that is engaging. It should be authentic. They should be doing something. Completing a worksheet does not meet any of those that I just mentioned. So eliminate worksheets. Sorry for my dog. There's a bird outside. That again, though, worksheets are just no good for lessons. They're Anyone can pull out a workbook and give someone a worksheet. That doesn't mean they're learning. So just remember that. Last but not least, closure must be on your lesson. In the procedure, after the assessment, you need to wrap up your lesson. You need to close it. Just like when you go out a door, you pull it shut. You have to pull your lesson shut. So it's actually pretty simple. You can get fancy and you can show a video or you can play a quick little game. But with pre-K, your lessons are pretty short, even through the rest of the early elementary years. At the close of your lesson, you want to review vocabulary. What do those words mean? And you want to ask the boys and girls, what did we learn today? Why is this important? And where can we use this in real life? If you don't have those questions answered, you may have them walk away with the lesson and really not know your purpose, especially with these young learners. So what is our vocabulary today? What did we learn? Why is this important? Where can we use it in real life? Where might we compare numbers? Bring it to the real world. It's really important to take school skills and take them to the bigger picture. Why do we want to know this in life? Where might our parents use this? Where might we use this? And so that's a really important wrap up at the end of every lesson. Sharing is good at the end of a lesson, sharing something that they've done, but that's not your closure either. You must have this part of the closure on all of your lessons. And like I said, you can even list those questions and say you're going to address them, and that's your closure. Overall, good job. Share those lesson plans on Facebook, and I enjoyed reading your lesson plans a lot.